Good evening, Vancouver, and welcome back for the final time of this season to Canucks After Dark. As always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. Normally, I ask you how you're doing at this point. I'm assuming it's not as good as normal, but how are you doing?
Brother, thank you for asking me. I'm actually okay. As you know, I was fortunate. I'd say fortunate. I was at the game. And I know you and I talked about not so much win or lose, rather, would I get back in time? Because the game did not go to overtime as much as we wanted to. I was able to get back a bit late, but thank you for stalling for 15 minutes for me. But no, I'm actually okay. I know we're going to talk about this. I don't want to spoil what we're going to talk about, but expectations, reality, where we are, where we could have been. So there's everything. I'm happy. I'm sad. I'm proud. I'm thinking what could have been, but I know we're going to get into all those things. What's your general feeling right now, Parker?
Yeah, it's a lot because there's the portion that is obviously the disappointment. The excitement going into Game 6 and into Game 7 of the chance to be a Final Four team, and at that point, hey, you're too good. You're 8 games away at that point, and that's. It's that little bit of hope, and then for the absolute egg that was laid in Game 6, and then the egg that was laid for the first 40 minutes of this game, it's disappointing. While at the same time, you can also look back and appreciate how good of a season this was for, like we're here when we didn't expect to be, but that also gives the concern of, okay, but will we be back? And that's, I think, something that we'll talk a bit about. And obviously in the offseason, we'll continue talking about. But I think that's where most of the, emotion comes from for me is like, okay, like, what needs to be done to get back here? Because frankly, this is the most exciting, most fun month of hockey that I have watched since I was a child, essentially, right? Like since I was 14 years old. And for this to now just like, hey, like Thursday, we aren't playing anymore, and it's just gone. That part is where the hurt comes from, I think.
That Parker, that is such a not only mature thing, because you and I didn't plan this, but it's a mature thing to say, but it's reality because, as you know, I was blessed to finish my master's off. My Wednesday night church work is done. There's no bowling in the summer official league, so I was actually holding off a bunch of meetings and other commitments until tonight, right? To see if I'd be free or busy Thursday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday after that. And it's kind of weird how, in a good way, because we are content creators. We love this team. We love being on this channel. We do, I don't want to say put our lives on hold, but it's such it's every second night. And then it's the other off games thinking about or creating content, or at least thinking about what we're going to do. So it's a lot. It's a big part of our lives, and we choose it. And we're not looking for sympathy. We choose to spend our time, energy on money. I always say that. But I'll just say this, Parker. I think it can be both. I think we could say, wow, no one ever would have expected us to be in a Game 7 for going to the conference final. That can be true. But it also can be true that we can be disappointed too, given that once you get past that hurdle of, oh, we shouldn't be here. But yeah, now we're here. And exactly what you said, we were one goal away from basically getting to the next round. And then who knows what happens. And there is no guarantee that we're going to be this good next year, as much as we think, and we're grateful for the experience. You just never know. We got like 8 guys. We got to figure out if they're coming back or not.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I was sort of, especially yesterday, I was thinking about it a lot with the, obviously the incoming Game 7 and the thought of, thinking back to, 2009, 2010, 2011, those years. And like, hey, the Canucks were, again, a game away in 2011.
Yeah.
And then in 2012, we're like, all right, let's run it back, President's Trophy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Knocked out in the first round. And then it was over, right? Like that's like, just like that, it can go away so quick. So yeah, I think we have to cherish, the excitement while it's there. And I think this will be a team that gets looked back on very fondly, right? It took a few years, but that 2011 team became a team that we looked back on very fondly because it's frankly, the tied for the closest that we've gotten, and the closest we've gotten really in a modern sort of sense. And yeah, this team wasn't supposed to be here. They weren't supposed to be a 50-win team this season. They weren't supposed to win the Pacific Division, get home ice through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. But when they did do that, and when they did get here, the people who say, hey, regardless of season success, and it was, to be frank,
Yeah. Yeah.
but hey, it's a success, we should just be happy to be here. No, like that's not the point. The point is we got here, we have as good a chance as anybody. Maybe analytically we didn't, right? Like, the odds weren't in our favor, but hey, every team is on the same playing field by the time the playoff starts, right? We had as good a chance as anybody else. We had a 3-2 series lead on the Edmonton Oilers, right? We were one game away from being Final Four. We were a Final Five team, right? There's only coming into tonight's game, there were 5 teams left, and we had a chance to go take on Dallas. And would Dallas have absolutely killed the Canucks? Probably. Looking at that team, I think Edmonton is in for a big upgrade in opponent coming into next round.
I do too.
But it reminds me a lot of the bubble too, where I had a very similar feeling going into that Game 7 against Vegas, where the Canucks probably didn't deserve to be there. Actually, they definitely didn't deserve to be there. Thatcher Demko was the only reason that they were even in the mix there. Yeah. But again, we got to that point. And then I think was it Dallas that was the other Western Conference final team in 2020, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And Dallas didn't look that good. Like, Dallas had just upset somebody, and I was looking at it and like, whoa, the path to the finals, like, not that, like, we're facing the hardest team in Vegas and we're taking them to Game 7. That's a similar feeling to what I got in this series, because the Oilers were the favorite coming into the season. The Oilers were the favorite coming into the playoffs based on how hot they were. And so I'm looking at this like, hey, if we can get past the team to beat, then sure, you have 2 more very hard teams in Dallas and New York or Florida. But if you just beat Edmonton, why can't you beat those teams as well?
Yeah. And I'm not bitter. I'm not a poor sport. You got to win well, lose well. I was talking to that about my kids whenever they bowl, but I do think Edmonton is going to get smoked by Dallas. I really do. Not because Edmonton beat us. Mm-hmm. I guess by an extension, then I would think that the Canucks would have a really hard time with Dallas. And I think they would have as well. Here's the thing, Parker. I think you learn a lot about fans too, and analysts. No, we're not analysts. We're content creators. That's a better way of putting it. You learn a lot about them in times when a team loses. And it's really fascinating to see some people saying, thank you, Canucks, so proud of this team. Others are saying that they laid an egg and they're almost blaming them. And then I'm in the crowd today, and you have some people that are cheering on, come on, we can do this. You have others saying, oh, come on, Hoglander, you're an idiot. Oh, come on, Myers. And it's just fascinating. And I'm never, ever going to tell someone how to be a fan. But that's the one thing that I think is going to, when we hear about the injuries that the Canucks suffered, when we hear about, coulda, shoulda, would have, I think you're going to learn a lot about the true nature of fans too. And I'm not telling anyone how to do it, but I even see it in some of the comments that are flashing by my face right now in our show. And I get it. It's raw. The final whistle was 2 hours ago, not even. So I get it. And just like them, I hope I have some clarity as the couple days go through, but I'm actually I think I'm okay right now. Like, I'm not gonna go on a rant or anything. I feel fine. I don't feel fine. I'm disappointed, but I'm also, I think you and I come from the same ilk, that we kind of see that this team has holes, yet we can still be very proud and very excited for what we accomplished this season.
Yeah, I think I was a bit surprised by my own reaction after
the
game, because, well, frankly, it's a bit of uncharted territory, right? Like, frankly, we haven't. So I mean, I'll be open. I texted you today and I said, hey, if they lose, I'm probably not going to be good enough to do a show tonight. Like, I just figured I would be, especially after Game 4.
Mm-hmm.
Game 4, and it was a very similar game to this one, Game 4.
Yeah.
Where the Canucks were outplayed the whole way, made it interesting at the end, and then that Bouchard goal with 30 seconds to go, that was just a heartbreaker. Because they did tie it up, and then they just put their foot off the gas. It was a bad shift.
Yeah.
That game, the whole drive home from the viewing party, I don't think I said a word. Like, I was just shut down after that.
Were you with someone too?
Yeah, I was just.
Oh gosh.
I was just done. Yeah, I was shut down. I figured I'd be in the same boat tonight, but when the final horn went, I was upset for I was pretty upset for probably 15 seconds, and then I went and I sat back down on the couch. And I watched the handshake line, and I just sort of sat there in it for a minute, and I was like, all right, that was, honestly, my main feeling was like, well, now what? like, what am I going to do every other night? Like, this was such an exciting time. And it's like, well, I guess. And I texted my buddies. I'm like, oh, I guess golf season started, boys. Let's, hey, we can get back on the course a little more often. But that was,
Yeah.
it wasn't content, but it was just like, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. Two things, Parker. And don't worry, friends, we'll get to the game in a second, but this is Parker and I have not chatted yet. So this is our kind of our venting session to each other. And you guys are just 500 of you are just kind of watching it. So two things, Parker. It's funny you said that about golf. When I was talking to you and I was talking to my buddies, so I went with Mike, my season ticket partner, and then Sean and Jake, my two sons. So the four of us there and back. And when I was telling them about, now what are we gonna do with our free time? Can schedule meetings. And Mike said the exact same thing because he's just like you, a good golfer. He said, the very first thing I'm doing when I'm going home is I'm booking some tee times. That's exactly what he said. So here's the other thing. Yes, we plan not to do a show tonight because if we lost, Parker nor I may be in a good mood, and if we won, who knows what I'd be doing, gallivanting. I'm sure I won't get arrested. Don't worry. But then when it was 3-0, I initiated. I said to Parker, "Okay, so just confirming, we're going to go tomorrow at 10." And Parker said yes. And then the Canucks scored right away. But I didn't text Parker. Then the Canucks scored a second one, and then I think, oh gosh, I wonder if we're actually going to do a show. End up losing. I put on my Twitter, no Canucks after dark, but I'll do my show at 11. And then Parker, the man that he is, the steadfast man that he is, texted me and said, "Hey Clay, I think I'm okay to do a show if you can get home in time." So here we are, an hour later and back on schedule. 500 people watching. Thank you. Listening to us vent, counseling us, being with us, and we will start the support group as of now.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I thought about it for a second after I texted him, and I was like, do I just not want to relive this tomorrow night? Am I just trying to get it over with?
That's fair.
No, I think I'm fine. But yeah, I know it's obviously it's sort of a sad, just group. Like I'm looking through the YouTube chat and people are, reasonably, and rightfully a bit upset. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Like, and I tweeted out after the second period, I'm like, please just don't go out with a whimper. Like that would have been, if the Canucks hadn't at least made it interesting. Yeah. I think what almost makes it feel a little bit better is that they sort of died doing what they loved, right?
What they do.
They just did they played exactly to their tee what they've done the whole playoffs. Yeah. They had a brutal start. They fell behind and they said, "Hey, we can still come back. We're not dead yet." And they did for them. Like they fought hard till the very end. They had, a pretty good third period. They were really a one-line team tonight, which was a big problem. One line plus Connor Garland.
Garland was awesome.
Garland was awesome. Pettersson and Miller were awesome. And then whoever they were with couldn't score. And then Shelovs was great as well.
Parker, did they go through every single of the 8 wingers with
pretty much? It seemed like, and they created so much potential, and nothing could happen. But I think overall, it was sort of like, it really isn't sustainable to keep trying to win games this way. It worked a couple of times. It worked in game 1 against Nashville. It worked, once in this Edmonton series. It worked, I know, another time again. Like it worked 3 or 4 times in this series or in this playoffs. But it wasn't, it wasn't sustainable. But they just had to get through one game. They didn't. Life goes on.
And I love what you said about basically they died doing what they love in all seriousness. Because even Frank Saravalli, with 5.5 minutes to go, he tweeted out this: "Hold all tickets. 5:23 left. And if you've watched the Canucks at all these playoffs, a couple of teams have been rope-a-doped into feeling comfortable with 2 or 3 goal leads." That's exactly what he said.
Yeah. And he's right. It's and Dom from The Athletic was tweeting out similar things. Like like he genuinely thought the Canucks were going to pull it off against all odds. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's tough, but it was a heck of a ride.
Thank you, Carol. Continue to support us here at Canucks After Dark. Continue to support Parker and me, gifting 10 memberships. We appreciate you very much. And at least Carol, her giving spirit has not died with the end of the season. Thank you, Carol.
Yes, we appreciate that, Carol.
All right, man. Lead away. How do you want to do this tonight?
Yeah, I think what we should do, let's touch on the game
okay.
A bit. I'd like to. I don't really want to spend too much time on like off season, like who
I
do we
agree.
keep, who do we let go. I think that's good for next week. We can
Yeah, we got
start
to
to
save
dive
that.
into
We got to
that.
save some content here.
We've got 4 months to kill now.
Yeah.
We talk a little bit about the game. I'd love to get some viewer feedback. So if you guys do have comments, questions, just your thoughts on everything, I would love if you guys maybe held it for 10-15 minutes while we talk about this game more in particular, and then we'll go into sort of viewer comments, viewer questions. And if you are on the Twitter side, which most of you are, you can join the conversation over on youtube.com/Canucks After Dark.
Awesome.
You'll actually find the stream on there, and you can jump in the chat. And maybe a membership comes through that you get gifted. You can come hang out with us there.
All right. Take us through. Why don't you take us through the nitty gritty, and then I can tell you, I can add anything from being there.
Sure. Yeah. And we'll start on the first period. Canucks came out pretty slow. Genuinely pretty slow. Shot attempts in the first period, 21-12 in favor of Edmonton. Shots on goal obviously ended up being 13-2. But really, I mean, the story of this game, and something I'll come back to, is expected goals. Like that period felt abysmal. 13-2 were the shots. Expected goals were only 65-35% in favor of the Oilers. The problem is that missing the net in some cases counts towards expected goals. And that was really the big key for the Canucks tonight, right? And I'm looking at that first period where they get outshot 13-2 and they survive and they make it to the intermission.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, hey, first period doesn't count anymore, right? We go to the second period. Doesn't matter what we did what you guys did in the first. We come out in the second, we score a quick one and we're fine. Obviously that wasn't the case, but there was really only thing that of note in the first period was how brutally deflating the Canucks 4-minute power play was.
Yeah. You could tell they missed Brock Besser. Philip Hronik had no clue what he was doing on the power play.
I the second I saw that they put 2 defensemen on the ice, frankly, I was angry. Like, I'm like, what are we doing here? The power play has been abysmal lately. The Oilers have absolutely had us keyed in on our power play. And to be fair, we've keyed in on theirs too for the most part lately. But it was just a 4-minute penalty. You're Elias Pettersson just got cut pretty good in the mouth, had to get stitches. It was a pretty bad high stick. Like, McLeod instantly argued, it was his own stick, and then you watch the replay and the whole toe of the stick just rides up Pettersson's whole face. So the Canucks get a 4-minute power play, and the shots at this point are like 11-2, and you're thinking, hey, just get one here and we're chilling, right? We go into the intermission with a lead, and all bets are off going forward. One shot during that whole power play, and it was Connor Brown from the Edmonton Oilers on that breakaway, which, I mean, finish of Ilya Mikheyev on that breakaway, to be fair, which was a good save. But man, like, that was, I mean, Philip Hronik's the one that, bobbled the puck in a bad pass into the skates, and it's just a mess. Absolute mess of power play. The Canucks just could not get through the neutral zone.
And you're so right, Parker. So a couple things with Besser out. Yeah, I thought you just put Garland, put another right-hand shot, and there's your replacement for Besser on the power play. Hronik was clueless. The Oilers didn't even bother checking him because they knew he wasn't going to do anything. Like, because he had no clue where to go on the breakouts. He had no clue where to go. Here's the thing, Parker. Like, yes, Mikheyev make a beautiful feather pass from Miller. Was that on the power play or was that separate? Was that actually on the power play?
I don't remember.
Yeah, and then Mikheyev goes, forehand, backhand, and gets around. He actually beats Skinner and just can't get it to that open, but a good chance, but unfortunately not surprising. So
and
you
all he had
come
to
up,
do, it's tough. So this move that Mikheyev makes, where he does a little fake and he goes to the far post. Now he is left-handed, so he's going to his backhand to try to get to the far corner.
Yeah,
and he just doesn't roll the wrist over. Like, that's all. Like, he gets there, and if he just rolls the wrist, the blade will come over, and the puck's sort of on the toe, which is turned over, but it just slides off of his stick and wide. Skinner doesn't even have to make a save there.
Yeah. So exactly, and that's why he hasn't scored in 60 games. So you come out of the first intermission, and I think the balanced way of looking at it is, on one hand, you could say, "Wow, the Canucks really messed up an opportunity there. Mikheyev messed up that breakaway, that partial breakaway, and they certainly messed up that 4-minute power play, which they only had 14 seconds left. Or you could say, wow, we were outshot 13-2. We had to stop a breakaway on that power play, and it's still 0-0. And I think, Parker, I felt that as long as the game stayed close, because of what you said, our history in the playoffs, the longer the game stayed close, the better chance I thought the Canucks had to win. So I was mad that they didn't do anything on power play, but I was actually okay that it was still 0-0 after one.
Yeah, and that really was the story, right?
Yeah.
It's something that Halford and Bruff touched on this morning. That was my listening back, a drive back from the interior for the long weekend. That was my listening. They said, like, hey, you don't even have to be the better team tonight. Like, frankly, like, you don't have to win. The only place you have to win tonight's on the scoreboard. You can get outplayed for 60 minutes as long as you score more goals than the other team for this night. And, they almost, that's sort of exactly how they played. So yeah, going into that second period, it was, hey, we got crushed in the first, brand new game, right? There's 40 minutes left. The closer we get to the end of the game, the closer we get to a single shot either direction could win it.
Sir.
And for the Canucks, that's if you're the worst team on the ice, which they were tonight, that's all you can hope for. Unfortunately, second period starts. Cody Ceci is the one to break the ice a minute 16 into the second period. Not a name we're expecting to do much from the Oilers. He has been an asset for the Canucks for the most part, him and Nurse. But his shot, it was a perfect shot, frankly, by Ceci. Just labeled. I don't remember how it went in. It was over the shoulder. Of Shilov's. He went down a little early. Just a perfectly placed shot that Shilov's has struggled with these a lot of the series. The shots from the point. I mean, you've seen how many goals Evan Bouchard has. That's been sort of their MO, and it's been working for them. So the Oilers get that first one, but hey, one goal is not winning this game. We knew that.
And is this the one that came off of the Canucks icing, or is that the second goal? I know one of them was they were played very passively in their own end, and they iced the puck, and then they scored right off the face-off.
Yeah, it might have been this one because it was off of an ozone draw. That would make sense.
Yeah. Okay.
And those were killer. There were so many times tonight where the Canucks just couldn't get the puck over the blue line, and they're really a course of the series. And then 45 seconds later or so, Dakota Joshua takes a tripping penalty on Evan Bouchard, which again you can't do against this team. And I even said coming in like this morning, I was in the car and we're just talking on the drive home, and I was like, there's going to be 2 penalties aside this game. Like, that's it. There's going to be, each side's going to get 2 power plays, and whoever scores on one of them is probably going to have an edge. And that's exactly what happened, right? The Canucks had 2 power plays, kind of 3 if you count the double minor as 2. And so did Edmonton. Canucks did really well to kill off that power play for the Oilers. The problem is you get to 5 minutes into the second period, shots are 22-4 because the Oilers had 9 shots in the first 5 minutes of the second period. And this is one where, the Canucks just can't get it out. They lose every single 50-50 on the wall, essentially. Every single one. Puck ends up going back to the point. It's Bouchard. He throws it on net. It's tipped in. Once again, Seelovs doesn't find it. This is a tough one. I mean, it's tipped and it goes perfectly off the inside of the post. But it's we keep seeing Bouchard's name coming up.
On the broadcast, Parker, did they say right away that Hyman tipped it, or did they think it was Bouchard's goal?
They said on the replay they were like it might have been, but it wasn't like I don't think it was certain right away, but it was thought to have been potentially tipped.
Because I think I think you're aware of this, Parker. I definitely aware. Like they don't show Edmonton goals. The watch party they do because it's part of the Sportsnet feed, but here they choose not to show Edmonton goals, so we did not get another look at it. I had to go back onto X and see the highlight. But basically same thing, right? Get it to the right point and let it fly and see what happens. And both goals initiated from the same spot.
And then the Canucks get another penalty This is a bad one from Lafferty, 200
Yes.
feet from your own net.
Yes.
Just reaching for a puck instead of skating for it, gets the stick in the legs. Kulak, sort of mid stride, so the stick messes with his legs and he goes down. It's not a typical tripping penalty. It wasn't in the feet, it was in like the knees. But it is still tripping. And then
Lafferty was bad tonight, by the way. Don't you think?
He was, yeah.
That was horrible. Yeah.
And the Canucks, this Edmonton power play where it feels like the Canucks start a kill pretty well. They clear it twice, and then you look up at the clock, and there's still 75 seconds to go on their power play. The polar opposite of the Canucks, because the first time the Canucks entered the zone, there's only 30 seconds left. And this is just a point shot that goes wide. Ian Cole is completely twisted. He sees the shot go to his left wide. By the time he looks left, he is lit. By the time the puck gets to Nugent Hopkins' stick on this side of the ice, you see Ian Cole's numbers. So he is lost, facing the wrong way. Shilov's, all credit to him, dives across, gets the shoulder on it even. But it still goes in. And it's this one was really the backbreaker, right? That penalty into the third goal, 2-goal game, most dangerous lead in hockey. 3 goals is going to be a lot tougher to come back when this team wasn't getting any offense to generate.
And before that, Parker, I really believe, and I said this to my buddy Mike, the Canucks were starting to make a push. It took them to the halfway point of the second period, but they controlled a lot of zone time in the second half of that second period. And you felt that it was only 2-0 at the time. You kind of hinted at this. You felt like, there's a chance the Canucks are going to catch up. And then for Lafferty to completely strip the momentum away. Yeah, you're right. In the offensive zone, because that's where the Canucks were playing. That was a backbreaker for sure. It was tough.
Yeah. So frankly, a better second period than the first period.
Yep.
But the Oilers got through. I mean, shot attempts 27-21 in favor of Vancouver, while the shots were, 14-10. So, Canucks getting outshot anyways. Scoring chances were credited at 14-13 in favor of Vancouver. High danger chances 6-5 in favor of Edmonton. Expected goals 1.5 for Edmonton at 0.9 for Vancouver.
Okay.
And of course, Edmonton scores 3 there.
Right.
So we go to the third.
Yes, sir.
And it feels like, again, the Canucks did come back down 3 against Nashville in game 5, game 4, one of those ones. I want to say game 4. So the thought is, hey, just score one early, right? If you can get one early and you're playing down 2 the whole way, and to the Canucks' credit, they came out really strong in the third period.
Oh yeah.
Like way better. Canucks get some offensive zone pressure. Connor Brown ends up putting the puck over the glass, which we're thinking, can we please decline that? They say no. And Canucks do nothing on that power play. It's just 2 minutes off the clock for the most part. Connor Garland breaks through the Canucks' first Game 7 goal in like 8.5 periods of Game 7 hockey. And look who's on the ice with when he scores this goal. It's Pettersson. It's Miller. A real bad play by Desharnais. Tries to clear it up. Pettersson, just so much pressure. He just fumbles it right onto the stick of Garland, who's alone in the slot. Skinner gives him that blocker side just a little bit too far, and Garland doesn't miss. So the Canucks are within 2 with 8.5 to go.
You think Skinner could have had that? Mike and I were debating that. Like, it was a good shot, but should he have had that?
A better goalie should, I think.
Yeah. That's what we came.
For Skinner, it's also like, man, what he shouldn't have to ever face a shot from there by himself, right? Like you cannot blame Skinner for allowing a goal from a guy shooting from the hash marks with nobody on him.
Sure. That's fair.
That's just, and especially because he's probably not set, right? Like he literally passes the puck from behind his own net like 2 seconds before he has to get set for the shot. Like he's deep in his crease by the time Garland gets his puck, right? He's not able to come out to the top of the crease to challenge. He's fully in the blue, which gives Garland a lot more to shoot at. Great point.
And so now it's 8.5 minutes left, and the crowd has some life once again.
Yeah, and it was great from the crowd, trying to get back in it. So Canucks have an ozone draw, 4.5 to go. Guess who's on the ice? It's actually Lindholm, Joshua, and Höglander on the ice. Good face-off win. Hughes, tries to show off the skating a little bit, goes down the wing. really just pulls the entire Oilers team down low, and we finally see Filip Hronek get a shot through. He's been hesitant on the slap shots all playoff. Finally gets one through. It's a great shot, gets through everybody. And this one hurt because it really felt like, oh, they're just gonna do this again. Like they actually might just they might just do this dumb thing where they come back down 3 again. It was a great goal, and it was one the Canucks needed. I mean, again, are you gonna blame Skinner on this one? There's 13 guys in front of the net. Ekholm with the elite screen. Like Skinner doesn't ever see this one. But yeah, Canucks are within 1.
Yep. And I don't have to tell you, Parker, the mood was absolutely nuts, bonkers, bananas. It was, and we felt like we were going to do it. We had just scored 2 goals in 4 minutes, and we hadn't had to pull the goalie yet. So we had, I know we're going to talk about the last 4.5 minutes where we actually didn't generate much, save for like 1 or 2 chances. But it felt really good. There's no one saying that we're going to win for sure, but at least we had a puncher's chance now.
Yeah, so Shields gets pulled with about 2.5 to go.
Yeah.
Canucks really, they don't generate much. They had one really good chance with the puck played in front that I think was a swing and a miss, if I remember correctly.
Or
maybe it was
Hoglander, right?
Yeah, I think it was Hoglander.
Yeah.
But other than that, the Canucks they really were struggling to get into the zone again. The Oilers were tying it up a lot along the wall. There was one play where I think it was either McDavid or Draisaitl or somebody. It looks like they could have skated down and tried to win it, but they just sort of flipped it to the other blue line and changed.
Yeah.
With only Hughes back, I think, and Hughes had played like probably 19 of the 18 minutes in the third period so far. But they didn't do that, and I was like, okay, well now just turn around and punish them for it. And they just weren't really able to get set up, weren't able to get anything going, and they ran out of time.
It was a weird last 2.5 minutes because I don't remember like a 5 bell save that Skinner had to make. But I also didn't. You're right. Aside from, I don't remember any time where the Oilers actually tried to make a concerted effort to score, like on the empty net. And it was, and so I know people are going to say, well, why didn't the Canucks play like this all game? You have to recognize that the Oilers are not trying to score. They're up 3-0.
Yeah.
They'd rather pull all 5 guys out. That's why they had 2 shots on net. I think
how many times have we seen the Canucks do that all year, right? Like they just did it what the Canucks did all year long, where they got a 1 or 2 goal lead and they parked the bus, and the other team would get 18 shots to 3, and the Canucks would win.
Yeah. So yes, the Canucks did play better in the third for sure. They were more aggressive. They won more board battles for sure. But count how many times you saw the Oilers forechecking. None. Count how many times you saw the Oilers break out with numbers. None. Like they wanted to protect, and rightfully so. So yeah, give credit to the Canucks for sure, but you got to remember that there's score effects come into play as well.
Yeah, analytically, that period was the best of the playoffs, pretty much, for the Canucks, right? shot attempts were 22-4.
Yeah,
but the actual shots were only 5-2. They only got 5 pucks on net in the third period, and 2 of them went in. 5 shots, but 11 scoring chances, 7 high danger chances. Expected goals in that third period, 1.2 for the Canucks to 0.26 for the Oilers. This game ended up with a 50-50 expected goals.
Wow.
2.57 for Edmonton, 2.56 for the Canucks.
Oh, crazy.
So essentially dead even. But of course, that's just the score effects taking hold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So what was your feeling? By the way, everyone's talking about did Miller get a shot blocked by Zadorov? Like what I heard a couple people talking about it. Or did Miller have a good chance?
I don't remember.
Blocked. Okay.
I wasn't really focused on like the actual like nitty gritty of the plays. It was more of a just like, please do something.
Yeah. Okay. So the final buzzer goes off. They start the handshake line. What's your initial feeling there?
During the handshake line?
Yeah, just in general. Yeah.
I think it was just like, I don't know. It was just sort of sinking in. I think that it was over. It was just sort of just general morose, I would say.
Yeah. I think this isn't me bragging that I was there. I'm blessed to be there, but I think for me, when I'm there, it's a lot of pride because you're physically there. and you can still get this from the TV, don't get me wrong, but you're seeing them wait for the Oilers to stop celebrating before, and then they get off the ice, and then they kind of skate to the center or almost made it to middle, hold up their sticks, blah, blah, blah. And there's, I don't know, there's a certain feeling of pride there for sure for me. Like I was excited. I was grateful for the season. Like we got 2 rounds of really exciting playoff hockey and a hope and a pride in this team that maybe we didn't have last year, or definitely 2 years ago, or last few years. So that's the way I felt. Maybe that's kind of how you're feeling too, and that's why we were okay actually coming on today and not crying into our playoff towels.
Yeah, I think that might have made a big difference because I sort of, and I think especially if they had laid an egg in the third period, didn't score a goal, and it was like a 4-5-0 finish, like I would have been, like it would just been like, okay, well that was a waste of time, right? But the team, they at least showed some heart at the end. And like I think that's why I didn't just turn the TV off the moment it ended. Right, I sat there and I waited till they went to Sportsnet essentially at the end. And I sort of had the same thing. Like they were saluting the crowd, and I sort of sat there. I was like, yeah, like we, it was a heck of a run. It's tough. There's 16 teams go in. Only one team is happy at the end, right? And that's the brutal part about sports. But we'll see where we go next year.
Yeah, everyone's saying. So I did look up Miller block shot, and they're all saying that obviously not on purpose. It hit Zadorov. I can't remember if Zadorov was in the front. It was such a blur to me. He
did come out as the extra man.
Okay, gotcha. By the way, so there are quite a few Edmonton Oilers fans, not the majority, obviously, but there are quite a few. I had one sitting behind me, and he was very quiet, respectful. I turned around, gave him a fist bump. Good luck, have a good game. Da da da. Where you from? I'm from here. I just like the Oilers. Okay, cool. Pretty quiet. Then as soon as the Oilers started scoring, he was getting a little more lippy, a little more brave. Whatever. Nothing that I can't handle. And it wasn't to me. It was just general. But then the person he was with, whether it was a friend, girlfriend, I don't know, she wearing a Canucks jersey and was cheering loud for the Canucks. When they left, Parker, she had a Connor McDavid jersey on. So she took, saw it. She took her Canucks jersey off.
And then was the girl from that commercial that with like the girl with the fake Toronto jersey, and then she's got the Edmonton jersey underneath, and the guy takes his jersey off and he's just shirtless with the Vancouver thing. She's that girl from that commercial. That's a real person.
Mike and I looked at each other. We looked at the 3 people. We talked to the 3 people. Did we just see what we thought we saw? Yeah, whatever.
Kay's got it. Yeah, it's an insurance commercial. Yeah, it's right, because you got to have insurance, and it's just whatever, cheering for the team that wins, I guess.
Yeah, I think I touched a nerve here. What a fake fan! I have no respect for people like that.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't care about how people are fans, because I sort of know like anyone who's sort of like on the bandwagon and will stick around when the team's good and not when the team's bad. I know that when it finally does go our way, it'll feel different for us than it will feel for them, right? And they'll love it and they'll enjoy it. But I think for people who, sort of sweat out through the bad times, like I can't imagine how cathartic the good times would end up being.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And
I don't feel the need to, police other people's fandom, because it'll all sort of come out at the end, I think.
And I've always said, even 10, 15, 13 years ago when I started my little goofy channel, Parker, and I was making periodic vlogs about the 2011 Cup run, I even made a vlog about why I don't mind bandwagon fans. And my point then is what still stands now. That's how you grow a fan base. Like I don't think I'm a better fan because I've been longer or whatever, I spend more money, blah, blah, blah. Maybe inside I do, but on the outside, I'm fine with bandwagon fans, even if they admit they are, because that's how you grow a fan base. You really do. And I think this season, I know we'll do a post-mortem on another show, but this season has certainly grown the fan base. But you're right. We have some content. We can talk about, UFAs, RFAs. We can talk about wrapping up our little preseason pool and bets. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about over the next few weeks. But I think I love your idea for when we're ready in a few minutes to go to the people and just let them have their say, I guess.
Yeah. And going back to that fandom thing, I think it's like fans of anything, right? Like you think about like I don't know, like big comic book fans when like the Avengers were like kicking off sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
we sort of, I went into it was like, oh, these are cool movies that are fun. And then there's the people who have like been reading the comics their whole lives. And then these sort of come in it's like Christmas for them, right? They get that extra level of enjoyment because they've been so diehard for so long. And that's sort of how I think how it ends up being in sport as well.
Yeah, great point. Great point. By the way, I see people talking about it. I don't even know if they're being serious or not. Did you hear of any unrest downtown? I got out pretty quick.
I don't think there's much. And if there is, it's people who probably don't care about the hockey and want an excuse to go do something.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Ah,
yeah. Let's let's go to the people.
Okay.
We got about 20 minutes left here.
Sure.
So yeah, if you if you guys have any thoughts, any questions that are a bit composed, I would say, that are just like everything sucks and I'm mad, let us know sort of your thoughts on the game, your thoughts on the season, what you might be looking forward to, where that frustration might lie. Let's get it all out and let's talk through.
Yeah, that's it. And thank you everyone for watching. 850 people on here, and I'm guessing 3/4. Yep, about 80% of those are from Twitter or X, which is fine, and almost 160 on YouTube. So thank you everyone. Thank you everyone. What do they have to do to complete for the next playoffs? Well, we're going to get into that, I guess, over the next couple of weeks. Fangirl, I think immediately is you got to make some good roster decisions, and you look at this team. I think in general terms, you got to beef up the bottom six. I think our lack of depth was kind of exposed a bit in the playoffs, and we were lucky that Hoglander during the regular season, Lafferty, they contributed, but they weren't consistent contributors in the playoffs. So that's my first reaction. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot on this playoff run of who is going to be the real valuable pieces going forward, right? Like you now know, like, okay, who was able to step up for the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Pettersson wasn't great, but there's nothing you can do about that, and you have to just hope he's better. He's had a bad few months, but he's been better before. He'll be better again. Guys like Nikita Zadorov, if you can find a way to retain him for a reasonable price, you do it because he showed up. Dakota Joshua, great first series, not a great series against Edmonton. That'll be an interesting one to see how that works negotiation wise.
Yeah.
Elias Lindholm is a really interesting one as well. Because he was good, but who knows how much, what sort of payday he's looking for. Guys like Ilya Mikheyev, right? I think you frankly have to try to find a way off of that cap hit this year.
Wow. Parker, you and Mike, my season 2 partner Mike, should do a show together because he said the exact two same things when we were driving home. He said, you got to try and find a way to trade Mikheyev. You're not going to buy him out, so you got to trade him. And he said that Joshua, probably his number was increasing by the end of the season, and it may have actually took a bit of a dip in the playoffs.
And I think the really hard thing is we're going to hear about the injuries probably tomorrow or later this week.
Yeah.
And if it comes out like, oh, Joshua got hurt in game 6 against Nashville and he had a bad hip or something for all of round 2, then it's one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, he was unreal in the first round, and that's probably what we have to base things off of. Yeah. I got to imagine Quinn Hughes is hurting. Like, just he so clearly, I don't think it's like a playoff nerves thing. Or like, oh, he didn't perform at the time was right. It's like he was so clearly a step slower for the entire postseason, essentially. Like, how many times did you see him get the puck behind the Canucks net and attempt to wheel out and get caught? Right. Compare that to every single time in the regular season where he just somehow gains 6 feet of separation every time. I think we'll get a lot of information on, who was hurt, et cetera, but you also know who the gamers are. JT Miller, absolute gamer. Connor Garland. Unbelievable.
Best player tonight.
Postseason from him. Obviously, Artur Shilov's, I mean, he has earned 30 starts next year. No question about it. That's going to be a real thing for us to talk about going forward is, every move going forward, right? I mean, we're a month and a bit away from free agency. We're a month away from the draft. Draft isn't too important. I mean, we don't even have a first round pick. But it's going to be really interesting to see, what this management group values. And it's nice going into an off season thinking, hey, I trust this team or this management group to continue adding valuable pieces, right? And
Yes, good
subtracting
point.
where they can, right? Looking at like an Ian Cole. Ian Cole was great during the regular season and lived up to his salary cap, but
Yep.
is clearly a step behind when it comes to
Yep.
playoff hockey now. And if this team is now no longer building to be a 95-point team to make the playoffs, you're now building to be that contender. And if it costs you a couple points in the regular season potentially, that's a risk that they have to take because you know a team that makes the playoffs and gets dumped in the first round is you know the bar's set higher than that now.
Yep. Yep. Let's do this one quickly from Edmund. I will start off. I'm picking Stars in 5, Stars in 6, and I'm going Panthers in 7. How about you?
I would take the Stars in 5.
Yeah.
They are so deep.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't think the Oilers are. And then I think I'm going to take the Rangers in 6 against Florida.
I did not see what the Paramedics were doing in the lower bowl. I don't know if Dogwood was at the game or on TV. Did you?
Nope. Didn't see anything.
I like this question from Viper. Do you think the series would have been different had Demko been in net?
Yeah, probably. I think both series would have been different. I mean, Demko is so clearly a better goalie than every other option on either side of the ice.
Yeah.
To the point where he probably steals you one game at some point, I have to imagine. Now, Shilovs was fantastic, and in the role that he was thrust into, like nothing against him.
Yeah.
But you got to think, like, you know, we're talking about a top 5 at the very least goaltender in the NHL compared to a third stringer who had only played 9 NHL games coming into the postseason. Like Shilovs was good, but I mean, what was his save percentage in the playoffs? It was an .898. Right. Which was, and again, that can you ask for much more? Probably not. But, you know, you look at, you know, maybe game 4, right? Like does an extra save or 2 get made, or game 2, does an extra save or 2 get made that keeps the Canucks, you know, a little bit closer, or maybe they win one of those games instead. Maybe that game that they force overtime, game 2, you know, maybe Demko makes a save in overtime and we go the other way. Right. It's of course it's all what if, right? Would the series have been different if Brock Besser was playing tonight? Maybe, right? Maybe he's able to score that tying goal. Maybe it never becomes 3-0 because he makes a better defensive play than Ilya Mikheyev, or maybe he finishes that goal that Ilya Mikheyev fumbled off of his stick, right? Like there's so many what ifs, but that's not really how you can live, right? It's you know it's next man up, and that's what Tocchet's always said, and you know they did pretty good for where they were.
Well said. Jaskrin, no, Parker and I both don't think DeSmith resigns. Too expensive. And we have our goalie. Now we've proven, we just talked about him for a couple minutes. Sheila should be backing up Demko and getting between 25 and 30 starts.
The most interesting thing with DeSmith is I think DeSmith showed that he's a really good backup, as in he can play once every week or 2 and be totally fine. And it's a hard skill to have, to be able to sit for 2 weeks and then come in for a game, sit for 2 weeks, come in for a game. What DeSmith also showed is that you can't really rely on him in a stretch where your starter goes down. DeSmith just doesn't have the, you know, every other night in him. Like, and we saw that, you know, in late in the regular season, and we saw that a little bit, actually mainly at the end of the regular season. And obviously, you know, we've seen Demko get hurt a few times here recently, like a concerning number of times, to the point where you want a backup that you can trust to play 6 games in a row if he has to. Where I think Shilovs has shown that he can do that, and I don't think DeSmith has.
Right. Very good. Derek's asking how confident are you about Rutherford and Aveen? I am very confident. It's taken them 18 months to turn over this roster, and look, we made it 1 win away from Final Four. So they're not afraid to make the tough decisions. They're not afraid to project out, and they're not afraid to trade assets. So not every single trade or signing is a hit, but overall they have been. And so I'm very confident in them. You?
And again, they learn a lot from these playoffs, right? Because now they know, okay, who do we want to keep and where are our holes, right? Defensively, I think the only real hole is is speed, and it's only if you really run into McDavid and Draisaitl, right?
Yeah.
Like this Canucks defense was very big and played frankly very well, right? Tyler Myers was a whole different man
It was great
in this series,
Yeah.
whereas Ian Cole was in the other direction, right? So you can say, okay, well, you know, Ian Cole was good for us in the regular season, but doesn't have that playoff speed. We're going to have to go replace him and try to get an upgrade there and use that money elsewhere. Then they can look and say, okay, we didn't have the depth to the point where we're playing Ilya Mikheyev on our top line in a game 7, right?
Yeah.
We can't afford that. So now you know where you need to add, where you can try to find value, and that's going to be tough, right? Where are you you got to try to find another Pius Suter, another Teddy Bluger, another Ian Cole regular season level, right? That's going to be really interesting. Is all the guys that they sort of took shots on worked, and they need to do that again.
Yeah. Don't have to name a player, but what type of line mates? I'll do one profile. You do another one. I think they need one guy who can fish pucks out of the corners, who can fish pucks away from the boards. Just someone to go get the puck and set up PD so PD can either shoot it or pass it.
Yeah, he needs one of those, and I think he needs another really high skill guy, someone that thinks the game at the same level that he does.
Yeah.
I think Brock Besser is that guy. Now he's going to do that with Miller though, and that's fine. But he needs someone like that, right? If he ideally someone that can finish, but I think someone that thinks the game and they can get a little bit of cerebral hockey going and just know where each other are. And I think that's the type of player that Pettersson should have.
Yeah. I agree with you. Thank you very much for the donation. We have do you have it handy? Or actually, I got it.
Dave. Yeah, Dave says, "How are you feeling about the Canucks prospect pool?" I'll let you take that one.
I like the top end for sure. I'm excited about Lekaramaki. I'm excited about Vilander, and I'm excited about DPD. And those are the three that everyone talks about. So I'm excited about those. And we're going to start to see them come in the lineup near the end of next season and the season after. I'm okay with the prospects that are truly, I don't know, you call them prospects, rather the next guy up, the Podkolzins, the Bains, the Carlsons of the world. I think that's okay. It's not the best ever, and it's not like Abbotsford AHL playoffs is the best barometer, but none of the call, except for Shilovs, none of the call-ups really made a huge difference. I was really hoping for Podkolzin. I thought it was okay. And then the bottom of the prospect pool, I simply don't know. I would love to have the guy. Who did we trade away for Lindholm? Where's the Lindholm? What's that defender?
Bushevich.
Yeah. So I was intrigued by him, but who knows? Who knows how he turns out? So I like the top end, the top three. Then I don't know enough about the kind of like the middle and the bottom, and I'm just okay with the Abbotsford guys. So
yeah, the Canucks prospect pool isn't great for how bad they've been for so long. They've got a couple, sort of medium high end guys in Vilander and in Lekaramaki. Yeah, those will be interesting, and I'm excited to see Lekaramaki next year. At least in preseason, and see if he can try to fight his way onto the team, because he sort of strikes me as that guy that I could see on Pettersson's wing potentially, right?
Yeah.
I would hope there would be a good connection. You put him and Höglander and Pettersson together and just get a little bit crazy. Defense might suffer, but he's got such a good shot that I think that would be very interesting. But after that, it does taper off a bit. So I think what you really need is just got to start hitting on your late round picks, because I mean, in a perfect world, the Canucks don't pick in the first round for a few years. Frankly, right? In a perfect world, we're trading that first round pick for rentals every trade deadline for the next few years to try to, take advantage of that ideally accumulated salary cap if you can, and make a run.
Yep. Thank you, Dave, for the donation. We appreciate it. I think I skipped a bunch of questions now because I want to highlight that.
That's okay. I can try it out. We can take a couple more here.
Okay.
I don't have any in front of me. Somi Shows says, can we perhaps do a Swayman Ullmark type arrangement to help us have two healthy goalies coming into the playoffs? I think you could. You really would need Shilovs to be really good. Because again, the margins aren't like, remember where we were coming into the season, at the Athletic had the Canucks at a 49% chance of making the playoffs or something along those lines.
That's right.
So, if the Canucks come out to a hot start and have a bit of flexibility to play Shilovs once every 3 games, that would be great, frankly. I don't know if they're going to be in that position though, because again, I get worried. Like, what if they go out to a slow start and they just need to rattle off a bunch of wins? Are you just going to not play Demko every game? You're
Right,
probably going to
right,
play Demko every game. So
right.
I like the idea, but it's a bit tough to do with a goalie who's going to be 23 for all of next season, essentially.
Yeah, no, that's true. In theory, it sounds nice, but it'll never get to it's not about salary, but you're right. If Demko's making $5 million for a couple more seasons and Sheloves gets a small raise as an RFA, that doesn't scream like a 50-50 split to me. But if you can get, like you said this right from the start of the show, you can get 25 to 30 games out of Sheloves and not worry about it, then every little bit helps to sustaining Demko for the playoffs. So I hear what you're saying. So many shows. I just don't know if it's realistic in practicality.
But hey, maybe She Loves his 3 starts in preseason. He's unbelievable, and we say, okay, he's just picking off where he was before, and we're just gonna ride. Hey, he can. He's, and then maybe in a few years we get to a Markstrom Demko situation again, right?
Yes.
In a perfect world, we just keep churning through goalies on fairly cheap contracts, sort of like NFL running backs, but obviously a little bit more high leverage. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
There was one interesting. CN says, I wonder how many teams would struggle without their leading goal scorer and leading goal stopper. Yeah, you got to think about that. You're taking a top line player out and you're starting goaltender. That would cripple a lot of teams. It really would.
And your backup goalie wasn't doing well either, right? Like
third stringer.
And the thing is, right, like for how nice it would have been to have Besser for this game, and how nice it would have been to have Demko for the last month, essentially. Those weren't the positions of weakness. At least the goaltending wasn't, right?
Yeah.
Like, Sheloves could have been better, I guess, but the situation he was in, he was pretty good. And Demko probably would have been better. But we really got down to the point where the Canucks were a shot away, and maybe Besser makes that difference. And, I think the lines probably look a lot better tonight if Besser's involved.
Yeah.
Because, you don't have Mikheyev in your top 6, frankly. So yeah, that would have been nice, but it's, injuries happen all the time in the playoffs. That's why it's the hardest trophy to win, is because no team gets through it unscathed, right? You could also be like, oh, it would have been nice if Quinn Hughes was 100%, or if Elias Pettersson was playing his best game, right? There's a lot of what ifs, but there's a lot of what ifs all over the place.
Yep.
Like what if Stuart Skinner knew how to make a save, right? Then then we're in that same timeline where things sort of balance out.
Yeah, and in fairness, listening to Edmonton reporters and content creators, they would have said the same thing if the Canucks won. What if McDavid was completely healthy? Because they think that both McDavid and Hyman might be fighting through stuff. So yeah, you're gonna have that with every single team, for sure. But yeah, it was just to reiterate the whole Besser thing. Not only Parker we saw a revolving door on the side of Miller and Petey, but right away the power play you saw. Just the effect that no Brock Besser had on it as well.
Yeah.
Well,
we're at about that time. Is there one more you want to take? Do you have any lined up?
Aside from acknowledging Lucas's membership for 21 months. Thank you, Lucas. Weren't sure if you're working tonight, Lucas. I was looking for you, but I wasn't sure if you're working tonight.
I see a lot of people asking about Tyler Myers. I think we'll address that more next week. Make sure you're subscribed. Follow us on Twitter, ParkersPucks Canuck Clay. And we'll wrap up with this nice comment from SK93 saying, thank you, gentlemen, for your coverage during the season. It's been great. Looking forward to next season. Hey, we'll be here all off season. If you want to keep talking hockey, maybe we go down to, once every 2 weeks in the dog days of August. We'll see. But make sure you, we appreciate all you guys for the entire season. Basically every Monday night, it was fun coming in, especially when we talked about it in mid-April when that Nashville series kicked off, and we said, hey, look at us, like, who thought we would be about to break down that round 1 series, right? And then we did, and it was fun, and then they moved on, and then we got to do it again for this round, and then we got to do that show after game 3 in this round, and that was beautiful. Like, it was so much fun. So genuinely, and it wouldn't be possible without right now there's 991 of you in here.
Wow.
So thank you all very much for joining us all year long. Clay, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, Lucas, thank you for the late donation. And I'm happy for a great season, my best season yet. That's awesome, Lucas. Yeah, you got to work playoff games. Very happy for you, and we're happy to thank you for your support of us on this channel. And yeah, I'm as I started off this show with, I'm not that you guys are worried about me and Parker, but I'm in a good place, clear head. I can look at this season with a clear head, with just with a spirit of gratitude, excitement for the future, uncertainty for sure, because we're certainly not going to see the same team on the ice next year, but that's every other team, and we have all summer to dissect what could have been and where we're going and all that kind of stuff. But yes, for the true game coverage part of Canucks After Dark for the 2023-2024 season is now officially done. And I think Parker and I were both very grateful for all of your support. Those of you that stuck with us every single show, it's pretty awesome. And obviously we can't do the show without you guys watching. So we are very grateful. And Lucas just coming in and just dropping donations left, right, and center. Not only Canucks, but everything hockey in general. Benchmark has been set. Awesome. Keep it up, Lucas. We appreciate that. And we wish you the best of luck, as we wish everyone on here the best of luck.
Yeah. Folks, enjoy the summer. We'll be here, like I said, every other Monday night going forward, depending on how busy things are. We'll be here after the draft, free agency. Next week, we're going to post-mortem essentially this team.
Yeah.
Right. We'll look back on the regular season, on the playoffs, sort of player by player, who we want to keep, who we want to let go. By then we'll know a bit more information, injury wise, who was hurt, what was going on, how we're looking for next year. How's Demko looking? How's Besser looking? Things along those lines. So make sure you stay tuned. Hit subscribe here on the YouTube side. If you're watching on Twitter, youtube.com/Canucks After Dark. We appreciate you guys joining. If you are on the Twitter side, make sure you follow each of us, Canuck Clay, where most of you are watching already, and myself, ParkersPucks. Just type my name in there and hit that follow button. Clay, any parting words?
No, I'm good. Gonna do a quick show now at 11:30. If everyone is not sick of Canucks talk yet, then I'm gonna watch a bunch of post-game interviews like I usually like to do, go to bed, wake up, go to work, and figure out what I'm gonna do every second night now.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thank you all for joining. If you missed any part, you can rewind back to the beginning. You can find on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, etc. I think both are linked in the YouTube description as well. All right, that's it. It's a good year. We will see you next time.